Who won, Daddy? Christian Horner won, son. That's who won. Because in all of the political wranglings and the power struggle at the balls that are red, Christian Horner, yet again, the god-tier politician that he is, comes up smelling of roses. This is chaos. Per breaking news, per Craig Slater of Sky Sports F1 yesterday, when talking of Checo Perez's 2-year contract extension. Oh, the humanity. He says that the other Red Bull boffins, the head ofs, the Helmut Markos, the Oliver Mintzlaffs, the Mark Mateschitz, that they wanted Carlos Sainz Jr. to sign, him ostensibly being the more talented driver of the two. Negotiations with Carlos Sainz over the past couple of weeks had been hot and cold erstwhile. At one point he was the favourite, Carlos Sainz Jr.'s team said. At another point they were getting the cold shoulder. Helmut Marko said that he was the driver that he wanted to sign, but for the big bloody $15 million a year contract fee. Here's what Craig Slater has said. Carlos Sainz, for him and for them, this was very much the desired seat in Formula One at Red Bull. And even speaking to the people in the Red Bull office when I got the news of Checo Perez's extension, there was a bit of a disappointment that Carlos Sainz was not going to be opposite Max Verstappen, says Craig Slater. This is chaos. Indeed, this is Sparta or F1. He had been holding out for this seat, had Carlos Sainz Jr. My understanding from his representatives was it had been hot and cold over the last few months. Red Bull seemed interested. Then they were more detached again. Interestingly, the point of Carlos Sainz's negotiations had with Red Bull negotiations had with Red Bull changed from, oh, there we go. Look at this. This is chaos. We're talking about point of contact now. And this tells the story right. Let me read it out again properly. Sans stutters. Interestingly, the point of contact for Carlos Sainz's negotiators changed between Helmut Marko and Christian Horner himself. What does that tell you as far as who won? Who do you think Christian Horner would have wanted in that seat? And who do you think Helmut Marko would have wanted? Now, is that a sign potentially that there had been this internal power struggle at Red Bull, that Christian Horner has clearly emerged as the winner here, ? Checo Perez, among other things, had been staunchly loyal to Christian Horner through all his issues at the start of the year. I think it certainly is a Christian Horner choice. That much is clear, says Craig Slater of Sky Sports F1. We've had this conversation a gazillion times before. My heart bleeds for one Carlos Sainz Jr., for there is always going to be casualties in war, as there is F1 negotiations. It's chaos. Checo Perez has won. And for the avoidance of doubt, listen, I've taken a lot of flack over the past 48 hours for quite rightfully criticising Checo Perez, not on his person, but his performance. I'm an F1 content creator, and that is how we earn our corn out here. I'm not ever going to sacrifice truth, the objective truth as I see it, at the altar of anyone's partisanship. But there are fundamentalists across all fan bases. F1, Checo Perez, Lewis Hamilton, Maximilian Verstappen. There are fundamentalist pockets of those in each and every single one of those fan bases. Charles Fossey. Checo Perez fans have come for me saying how I am leveraging isms. Why don't I criticise? What do you mean, why don't I criticise? Anybody can get it on this channel. If it's worthy and truthful criticism, as it is with Checo Perez, the Mexican Minister of Defence, everybody's going to get it. I'm not holding back on this channel, not anymore. We're going to talk truth, evidence-based truth each and every single time. You're going to tell me that Checo Perez deserves the 2-year contract. Someone said that his car has been sabotaged. What do you mean? Show me the evidence of that. Show me the evidence. What is that? Just a suspicion based on your partisanship and your fanfare of the Mexican Minister of Defense? What are we doing here? Come on. Like, I can't engage these nonsense, these tinfoil hat conspiracies meaningfully. We're going to have an honest grown-up conversation and genuinely say that over the past few races, failing to get out of Q1 and Q2 on 2 different occasions, that Checo Perez's performances warrant a 2-year extension. Behave yourself. I can't engage that meaningfully, Funky. I cannot. And I shall not. But that's what we're dealing with here, apparently, on a fan channel, where we're going to go back and forth and discuss. Sometimes Cameron F1 needs to make sure that his shoulders are broad enough to take some flack, to come in for some criticism himself, even if all of the opinions I'm espousing, you can go and fact check them. Go and check them out. Miami turn 1 very nearly took out Max Verstappen, did the Mexican Minister of Defense, a la Valtteri Bottas at Hungary many moons ago in 2021. It was very nearly the same bloody incident. How are you a top level driver, one of the best 20 in the world, and outbraking yourself that much, Checo? It would be me doing Checo Perez a disservice to clap my hands and pat that fella on the back for his 2-year extension, because I believe Checo Perez is a god tier driver. He's very, very good. Not Max Verstappen levels or Lewis or Alonso. Not quite that S tier, but maybe just a couple rungs below them. And for me to say that Checo Perez has been driving good enough, sufficiently competently enough to require, demand even, a 2-year extension is absolute baloney. I will be doing Checo Perez a disservice were I to say that. And I'm not going to do it. Red Bull fans reacted accordingly. They announced that Checo Perez was getting a 2-year extension, and Red Bull went full 1984 settings, didn't they? Because people were killing them in the comments and the reactions. You know, the cheeky skeleton emoji, I'm dead, i.e. that's the wrong decision to make. I am surprised at Checo Perez's 2-year extension. Well, nearly 16,000 people reacted with the heart emoji. 3,000 reacted with the angry face. A further 2,000 reacted with the dead emoji. So what does that tell you? Checo Perez fans around the world trying to lie to each other, pretending like Checo Perez had that 2-year contract coming because of his overperformance. What are we talking about? Is this what we're doing here? Horny Horner is a hunk shadow, you're killing me. It is a story though, this Christian Horner thing. I think he's worthy of praise, you know. In all this, there is some redeeming feature. Absolutely murky goings on as far as the bloody, the PA allegations, 100%. But in and of all this, Christian Horner was always going to survive, right? He was always going to survive. One thing that you can attribute, one characteristic that you can attribute to Christian Horner, Red Bull team principal, through all this, is that he can politic. If you're a Game of Thrones fan, please see Littlefinger and Tyrion Lannister. You know, those politicians that never die. Like, he's that good. And again, just to recap very quickly, on the back of the release of these allegations late last year around the Brazilian Grand Prix, what did Christian Horner do? Flew straight out to go and have a face-to-face meeting with the 51% share owners of Red Bull, the Charlie Nvidia family, the Tai family, knowing that if it got peak, if it came down to the crunch, ultimately the Nvidia family, courtesy of Charlem, they would have the deciding vote. 51% owners. Christian Horner knows what he is doing. Foster rapport with the key decision makers, and that's what he did. And ultimately, when it came down to it, what happened? What happened? There was the KC, there was the investigation, due diligence, back and forth interviews, day-long interviews with both the accused and the accuser. What happened ultimately? Ultimately, it was always going to go to a vote, and Charlie Nvidia holds 51%. He holds the veto, the deciding vote on whether Christian Horner was to stay or go. Now what we're seeing is that Christian Horner is trying to recapture the team around him, right? Those who are loyal soldiers will stay. Those who aren't loyal and aren't mission critical for the performance of Red Bull will go. Sadly for Christian Horner, mission critical is one Helmut Marko, Red Bull GmbH consultant, because without him you no longer have the jewel in the driver crown, which is Maximilian Verstappen. We know now that Max has a clause in his contract that says if Helmut Marko isn't staying as a Red Bull consultant, a GmbH consultant, then Maximilian Verstappen can also leave with immediate effect. And Christian Horner needs to manage for that, does he not? It's chaos. Absolute chaos. It's a political minefield, and credit to Christian Horner from Cameron F1 for managing it, for getting through it, for mitigating for the various political tropiezos or stumbling blocks. This is just the truth, right? I'm going to say where they go from here with all the difficulties around the setup, the lateral stiffness of the suspension, the kangarooing, the not being able to curb, Maximilian Verstappen having to drive around these issues. That's going to be the story at the Canadian Grand Prix this weekend, because there are curbs still, less so than at the Monaco Grand Prix, the Monte Carlo track, but yet and still you need to curb. And the Sharks are a circling as far as Scuderia Ferrari in the hands of Charles Leclerc in particular, because for whatever they've dialed down in absolute performance in that SF24 car, they've increased in terms of drivability, and that's chaos. That enables, no, facilitates the modern day Jean Alesi, the man they call Charles Leclerc, to extract the best out from that car. Reduced risk of unforced errors, a la Imola a couple of years back. Gonna get chaotic. I'm keen. The F1 fan, the F1 world waits with bated breath to see how they fare. Red Bull fare at this weekend's Canadian Grand Prix. It's another one of those ones. Stay tuned. Bated breath and all that to see if we get mean reversion as far as Red Bull's dominance. But there is other news. There is other news. Let's talk about Esteban Ocon very quickly. I'm going to do driver's market as well. And then I need to talk about some things that are going on in IndyCar that, again, aren't too wholesome. But we need to cover them because it is in the news. Théo Pourchaire, of course, falling victim of some vile abuse on the social medias. I don't know what is social media for. You know what, we'll get to it. Let me talk about Esteban Ocon very quickly. Because again, rumour and speculation is that Alpine wanted to suspend Esteban Ocon for this weekend's Canadian Grand Prix. But that was poo-pooed very quickly when they got some legal counsel. The legal counsel, their advice was, no, listen, mate, you can't do that. Lest you want to repeat the mistakes of Christmas past and end up in a circumstance not too dissimilar from Oscar Piastri. You remember when they announced that Oscar Piastri was going to drive for them, and Oscar Piastri took exception to that in public forum, countering on the old Twitters that no, I am not going to be an Alpine driver for next year. Oh, the humanity. And they would have found themselves in a very similar circumstances, said L'Equipe. L'Equipe stating that Alpine's revised legal team advised the bosses to scale back their plans to suspend Esteban Ocon, as Ocon could have turned up in Montreal with a bloody bailiff. Oh, the humanity. What are we doing, Alpine? French paper added that Ocon could have the deprivation of his right to work noted and demand that he assert his rights and therefore get into his single-seater. And this has President Wright. Back in 2002, I want to say, Felipe Massa did a similar thing courtesy of Sauber. They're different intentions, though. He'd received the grid place penalty. They sub-benched him. They relegated him to the bench for one race, hoping that his penalty will go away. But there is precedent here. I'm glad that Alpine didn't drop the legal ball yet again, as they did so famously with Oscar Piastri. Red Bull are still bantering them, by the way, for this, as they did with Esteban Ocon's. Listen, the Esteban Ocon announcement, sadly, said Red Bull, we weren't consulted before this. And again, massively represent the Oscar Piastri fiasco so many moons ago now. Commerce is the game, says Jay, in pro level sports. So choosing money of a pro athlete is not beyond the team's bloody Nora, Jay. Is that where we're going? I don't even know how to respond to that. Wall of Champions are coming to say hello. Leroy, somebody's going to hit that. I promise you. 100%. Take that to the bank. Oh, Jay, I really want to respond to that pro level sport, but I feel like it's too early in the morning for me to get so to undergo such extensive emotional damage. Selvin, Christian got his eyes on the canteen. Oh no, Selvin, we can't go there. We can't go there. That's far too salacious. But again, as far as the Checo Perez thing, 100% worthy of criticism. But now, say motorsport.com or F1 Stats Guru, he and Maximilian Verstappen now have the longest pairing as far as races. 138. I was convinced that Michael Schumacher and Rubens Barrichello went longer. 104 races only. Bottas and Hamilton 100 races. Mika Hakkinen and David Coulthard 99 races only. This is chaos. Go on, and let's talk about this driver lineup, because that Checo Perez multi-year deal leaves chaos in its wake, does it not? The only outstanding drives for 2025 then, alongside Russell at Mercedes, the 2 Alpine seats, the Red Bull Visa Cash App, whatever, Haas 2, 1 alongside Hulkenberg Sauber Cash App, and then Alex Albon and Lance Stroll yet to sign. This is techie. I did a very skeleton brief draft in my head. I don't even know if I want to regurgitate it. Here's what I think will happen. Right. There's talk of Yuki Tsunoda. Obviously, a Honda-powered Aston Martin. Honda will be keen to link up with Yuki Tsunoda in 2026 at the very latest. But are we saying that Lawrence Stroll will get rid of Lance? Not voluntarily. That will have to be enforced upon him. Indeed, Lance Stroll, some may say, is Lawrence's raison d'etre. That's the reason why he got into F1 in the first place, is it not? So why is he then going to go and get rid of his son? Lance Stroll will take that seat in 2025 at the very least. Probably 2026 and going forward. In that Williams seat, so here's where Carlos Sainz Jr. is a bit of a bottleneck. Currently having negotiations with both Williams and Haas and Audi. Potentially the most likely outcome for Carlos Sainz Jr. It's going to be William or Audi, isn't it? Sauber. I think he'll end up at Williams, you know. And I think the reason why he won't go to Audi, notwithstanding his dad's very deep connects and networks with Audi, I think he'll end up at Williams. I think he wants to be around racing minds. And again, it's a travesty of justice, isn't it? Oh, the humanity that Carlos Sainz Jr. is going to end up at Williams from Ferrari. Oh, the humanity. This is so techie. This just doesn't feel right, does it? Bruce Dog, you're a legend, sir. It just doesn't feel right. Vladimir says Lance goes to play tennis. That might be his calling. He doesn't want to leave it too late, though. He's getting on right to go and pick up a racket and try and conquer a brand new sport. I don't know. Not an easy thing, that. So let's say Carlos ends up at Williams. Bottas at Sauber, then, in that case. Haas, Ollie Behrman, and who's going to partner Ollie Behrman along? I don't know. Who's in the other Haas? Bottas, maybe? Behrman and Bottas. Or Ocon and Behrman, maybe. RBV's a cash up. Who have we got there? Yuki Tsunoda and Danny Rick's another bloody protected one, isn't he? The chosen one. One of Christian Horner's kinfolk who cannot be deposed under any circumstances alongside Checo Perez. Christian Horner has his mates, and since he's such a high-powered senior stakeholder, it's worthwhile, right? Again, Tyrion Lannister settings and Littlefinger from Game of Thrones. Knowledge is power. Some say, keep your friends close and your enemies even closer. At Alpine, it will be Gasly and Jack Doohan potentially for 2025. There's my draft. Go on and let's talk about this IndyCar circumstance, because social media, listen, do we need to get any more toxic than we are as at June 2024? Again, the barrage of insults that I've been on the receiving end over the past 24, 48 hours for coming out and quite rightfully talking about Checo Perez's underperformance, his lack of match fitness, and the fact that in no way, shape or form can you reasonably tell me that he deserves a multi-year contract when Esteban Ocon has just been deposed, when Lewis Hamilton, 7-time champion, apparently his skills didn't warrant a multi-year deal at 39 years old. So what are we doing here? Is there no balance or equity in Formula One? With all those facts and figures underlined, I'm still getting critical. How can we be so extreme? Social media is like the bane, the dirty cesspit of all sports. The anonymity needs to cease, man, because people get too emboldened even, and too empowered. Like, I don't know. You gotta. Critique is critique, right? But you got to tie it to some sort of evidence. Like, you can't be, again, for the avoidance of doubt, what we're not going to do on this channel. Let me look the camera deep in its lens. What we're not going to do on this channel is sacrifice truth and objectivity at the altar of any form of partisanship. I don't care who the driver is. Lewis, Checo, Matt, I don't care. Whoever. Got to talk to it. If there is criticism that needs to be levied, we will talk about it on this channel. My shoulders are broad enough to take some toxicity at the hands of the cesspit that is sports social media. But I digress. Let's deal with this. Teo Pourchaire crashed into somebody on the weekend. I don't even know the dude's name. I remembered it's some Argentinian fella that, whatever. I'm not even going to promote him on this channel. Crashed into some fella over the weekend at the Detroit Grand Prix. A fella who'd previously partnered and had acrimony with one Callum Ilott. Now, somebody cracked a joke and said, you know what, Teo Pourchaire is responsible, and referred to him on social media as Callum Pourchaire. A bit derogatory, a bit tongue-in-cheek, but whatever. And obviously, the social media mafia, the fans of this Argentinian driver, went ham. Took this as a reason why to absolutely destroy Teo Pourchaire. Death threats, everything. Went full ham, completely out of order. And what did the Argentinian driver do? He poured fuel on those very toxic flames, laughing, liking those tweets, and that's completely unacceptable. And again, afterwards he put out a bloody public tweet doing all this, I am the victim in all this, I've never seen any death threats and all this nonsense. What is he doing? How dare they? Teo Pourchaire is a serious driver. He made a mistake over this weekend at the Detroit Grand Prix, as every driver makes mistakes. Okay, so he's worthy of criticism if indeed he made a mistake. But does that mean that death threats are warranted? What are we doing here? Honestly, I can't even anymore with this. The toxic underbelly that so maligns and plagues our sports, particularly motorsports, is just like, push that to the side. But the joke is, let me tell you this now for the avoidance of doubt, that makes me want to speak to truth more on this channel, not less. That there are fundamentalist Checo Perez fans that want to censor the channel, and other people who think that Checo Perez is worthy of criticism, as an example, is absolutely unacceptable. Indeed, that fuels me on, pushes me forward, catalyses the criticism. Next time Checo Perez stacks it or doesn't make it out of Q1, what do you think? How do you think I'm going to react on here with all this bloody toxicity and abuse front and centre? I'm going to destroy him. Do you mean? Have you seen Checo Perez? Mate, I'm not even going to get onto it. Checo Perez needs to improve. That's the upshot, the Aesop's fable in all this. Even with the 2-year. And you know what's worse? Let me tell you what's worse about the Checo Perez thing, since we're talking about it. Quick can think it through. RB needs a strong car to keep Max. How do I get more development time? By placing low in the constructors. Oof, Quick Scott. I'm not even thinking in that 4D way, Quick Scott. That's serious. In some way, Red Bull has it balanced. Japanese driver, Honda, Australian driver, Mexican driver, guy from Europe. Don't disagree, Jay. Leroy, interesting. Vladius, what did Courage the Cowardly Dog do in the face of fear? Lol, it didn't stop him. He kept on going. Absolutely, Vladius, and we will keep on going too. This channel's going purple sectors in 2024. I'm not messing about. And 2025. Wait. Watch, because we're going to talk about it in a way that mainstream media, sadly for them, because of the constraints and having to be politically correct, not that we won't be politically incorrect, but we're going to talk to the things as we see them, opinion based, with evidence underlying each and every single time. Let me talk to this Checo Perez thing to finalise, put a full stop on this. Look, Checo Perez needs to perform better. Anybody that disagrees with that, again, they're wading through the very murky waters of confirmation bias, something that I'm not prepared to do on this channel. I don't do it in real life, and I will never come before you and wade in those waters. Never ever will I sacrifice my objective truth, or the objective truth as I see it, at the altar of any form of partisanship. I don't care whether that's Lewis, Max, Checo, anyone. It's nonsense. Criticism will be levied happily, and praise, of course, and we have done that when we've been talking about Checo Perez, right? Erstwhile, 2021, he was God tier. Max Verstappen doesn't have that first championship without Checo Perez's exploits to ensure that I am being balanced in my criticism. But we're assessing him in terms of his recent form. How are you driving an RB20 and you're not getting out of Q1? Sabotage, right? Behave yourself. Where is the evidence of them sabotaging him? What? Because they developed a quick car that just so happened to be away from Checo Perez's understeery driving style. Behave yourself. Where is the evidence? Not going to put on my tinfoil hat each and every single time. Sabotage. No. Where is the evidence of this sabotage? Checo Perez, sadly for him, the comparison between him and his teammate would just be unfavourable. That's just the truth. Put it in your pipe and smoke it and go and take your medicine. Checo Perez, fundamentalist. Praise the dude when he's worthy of praise, but to talk about him as if he hasn't been underperforming is to do Checo Perez, the driver and the man, a disservice. You saw him in 2021 and how God tier that chap was. What are we doing here? Social media broadly, and particularly in the F1 space, is so toxic and delusional. And I'm going to be the antithesis to that. Pour water on those toxic flames, those who speak without foundation, and wade in the very murky waters of confirmation bias. And that's across all fan bases. Lewis Hamilton has a lot of them. Max Verstappen too. Checo Perez as well, apparently over the past couple of weeks, because they're showing out trying to defend Checo Perez for his material underperformance. Give me that drive. Give me that drive if a qualifying criteria is to not get out of Q1 and to be out qualified by Logan Sargent in a Williams as frequently as 4 races of 28. Give me that job. I can do that. I promise you. I will not fail you, Christian. Every single time at Monaco, I will make sure that I do not get out of Q1. What are we doing here? And the reason why I get a bit impassioned when I'm talking about this, well, there's a dearth of young, hungry drivers, brilliant ones, waiting to get into. Let's list them. F2 champion Teo Pourchaire out there in IndyCar, undergoing all this bloody toxic abuse, courtesy of this Argentinian fella whose name I shall not repeat. Teo, Vesti, Martin, bloody, who else is there? Drogovic on the sidelines as well. Kimi Antonelli coming through the ranks. Behrman, all these drivers, young, talented, filled with potential, waiting in the wings while Checo Perez gets another 2-year contract. I mean, what are we doing? Checo Perez gets another 2-year contract. All these guys waiting on the sideline. Bloody Alpine, don't know the illegal arm from their leg, and flipping Andretti and Lucky Sons and High Tech and all these other guys and girls waiting desperately to get into F1, but cannot because of the bureaucracy and the politicking. Oh, Jay, it's long. Gerard says 2026 RB Visa might make a jump in design and engine. They handled better than RB at Monaco. Balance out performance with new design direction. That's ambitious, Gerard. I know it's getting techie, isn't it, Breeze? I had to. I had that one. That one was simmering. Look at the bloody reactions. And the joke is on those dead face emojis. Red Bull deleted them. Didn't want to hear about it. Hyped up this. Oh, we've got an announcement coming. Wait for this announcement. It's going to be brilliant. And then launched it. Multi-year deal. Checo Perez has signed 2 years. 2,062 dead face emojis. 3,462 angry faces. Why do you think there were so many angry reactions? Because people broadly, the consensus is that Checo Perez's recent performances aren't commensurate with that of a Red Bull driver alongside 3 soon-to-be 4-time champion Maximilian Verstappen. That's why. What are we doing here? Genuinely, chat, what are we doing? Checo's issues, probably 75% psychological, 25% skill. Don't disagree. And I think that's an axiom that you can apply to driving in motorsport or sport at the highest level anyway. He always talks about himself as we, which means I think that might be language barrier because it's English, isn't it? I'll cut him some change and leeway. English isn't Checo's first language, is it? Espanol is, and in that sense, I think sometimes these messages are lost in translation. I tell you what, I wish that I could give you guys Spanish speaking skills so you could listen to Checo Perez in his native language. It's weird, I find, the confidence. When you hear Checo Perez talking Spanish, he sounds like a different person. In English, he's always very meek and mild and very bad accent attempt there, Cameron. But he comes across as very meek and mild. But when you hear him in his native language, not so meek and mild, which is interesting. Music is life. A new driver will need at least 6 months to a year to get used to driving touchy cars. Well, music is life, you say that. But look at Ollie Behrman, right? Just jumped in the car around Jeddah, was it? A track of death and just nailed it. I don't think the cars need that long lead time or as long a lead time as you cite music is life. As versus 10 years ago, they're easier to drive. I think Eddie Jordan was talking about this on the Formula for Success podcast recently, that potentially they might want to make the cars more difficult to drive as they were in the early 90s, right? The issue mainly is Perez's dad. As soon as his old man starts talking, Checo performance goes down the drain. So here's what Checo Perez wants to do, bless him. And I want the best for all of these drivers. F1's not easy, right? It's not even a pass. You don't play F1. Any sport that you can perish in or be seriously injured in, I don't think play is the right verb. It does it a disservice. You don't play Formula 1. And in that vein, I wish Checo Perez and all the other 19 drivers the best, right? But here's what Checo Perez wants to do. I made a video many moons ago that spoke about Rosberg's approach. What Checo Perez needs to do is focus on incremental gains, right? Each and every single session. His life outside of F1 still needs to be F1 if he harbours ambitions of optimising. Ignore beating Max Verstappen. That might be too ambitious. You might want to make your objectives smart. What I'd love to see from Checo over the next 24 months, for Pete's sake. Even bonkers hearing me say that. Checo Perez another 2 years in Red Bull. Jack Doohan, Yuki Tsunoda just sitting on the bench. What are we doing? Anyway, look, what I'd like to see from Checo Perez, I'd love for Checo Perez to make a mug of me because we know he has it in him as a peddler, as an F1 jockey. Again, mention no names, 2021 Abu Dhabi, 2021 Turkey. He has it. If you can defend Lewis Hamilton like that with aplomb and that level of competence and racecraft and defensive nous and devilment then you've got it in you, right? Nobody can say that he doesn't deserve an F1 drive. But if you're assessing Checo Perez, the Mexican Minister of Defense, on his merits over the past 3 races, on 2 occasions he hasn't made it into Q3. On one of those occasions, he didn't make it out of Q1. The other occasion, he didn't make it out of Q2. That, in and of itself, is not good enough in that RB20. I don't care what setup issues they were going through at Monaco. It's not good enough. And rewind back last year, similar thing was happening. Check out this stat. Only once have Red Bull, notwithstanding for all their dominance, only once have they finished 1 and 2 in the Drivers' Championship, and that was last year. What are we doing? What about 2022? What? Checo Perez didn't finish 2nd in 2022. That tells you all you need to know. That's not good enough. Checo Perez is better than that, and I'm hoping that he makes a mug of me and does better. Those he can do, eh? Gerard says Yuki would probably follow Honda sooner if Stroll gives up later after Alonso retires. There's a big if. So many big ifs in this in the weird and wacky world that is F1, particularly around driver's silly season, right? I don't think Lance is going anywhere. I think it would be the best thing for him, but I think his dad is living his dreams vicariously through him. His driving dreams, and that's what it is. 36 likes. What are we doing? I'm going. Do me a favour. Drop me a like if you've enjoyed the stream and the rambling. João says, morning from Porto Alegre, Brazil. Let's go. Obrigado, João. I think Red Bull chose the long run path in terms of relationship between team and pilots. No matter how good and the desire, Joss or Max, our team will prevail. João, I like that. I'd like to believe in that. But again, the hypothetical thought experiment that I would submit to you guys before I run away is this. Imagine that Christian Horner's allegations don't happen. Imagine that there's no political wrangling, that Christian Horner doesn't try to spin away Red Bull F1 technologies, try to leverage British financiers even to spin it off and become Red Bull's version of Toto Wolff, a team principal and material shareholder. Imagine that none of that stuff happens, none of the wrangling or back and forth between Christian and Max's dad, nor Christian and Helmut Marko. Imagine none of that happens. No one is going to tell me reasonably, of rational mind, that they sign Checo Perez at this point on a 2-year extended deal. No one. It wouldn't make sense. Hence why I say Checo Perez has benefited. That 2-year contract, the timing of it in particular, is absolutely a function of all the chaos and politicking that's happened on the back of the Christian Horner allegations. There it is, I've said it. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. The like button, Dan, you're a legend. It should be just underneath the video on the left, I think. Do me a favour and smash it. We'll be back around 8 o'clock for more F1 back and forth, modes of discussion. There will be more news, of course, later on. Oh, the video later on might be a bit shorter, but I'll be speaking to something. You guys are legend, and of course, remember, qualifying and the stream will be there this weekend, streaming live in the flesh, of course, talking about all the techie bits, the humanity. We'll be there 30 minutes before lights out for both qualifying and the race. Dan, you're a legend, sir. Do me a favour, guys, and smash the like on your way out. Subscribe if you're not already. You guys have been legends. I will see you at 8 p.m. British Standard Time. But between now and then, look but never stare. But I digress.